Okay then folks, welcome to the beautiful Glebe fishery. It's the first time I've ever done a feature here, and I was hoping for a nice summer's day so I could get a tan, put the old amber solero on the old solar panel, but look at the blooming day we're faced with, folks. But that is not stopping us bringing quality content to you. I think there's one or two there, folks, isn't there? It's ridiculous. This is the important bit there, folks. That's sneaking that bait in. Oh my dear, there's one eating my blooming pot. Look at that stunning, fully scaled mirror. Absolute stunning little fish. So today's focus is all about edge fishing. It is ridiculous down the edge at the minute, folks, but hopefully it'll calm down a little bit for when we get on camera and I can actually show you, how I'm sort of laying the rig in, the rig that I'm using, and obviously the baits before my float's going like it's like a blooming washing machine at the minute. So I'm just going to let everything settle down. So the Glebe fishery, what a stunning venue this is, folks. There's nowhere like the Glebe. It is just absolutely brilliant. You're guaranteed amazing days fishing on any one of the, I think there's 9 lakes here. We are on Lake 2 today. It's a David Orr Memorial match on today, actually, so all the other lakes are taken. So Lake 2, or Pretties as it's known, and Lake 3, Uglies as it's known, they're the only 2 available. So I've come right at the top end on Pretties, and it's ridiculous. Now, this fish everywhere, and I couldn't think of a better place to catch them than literally just on a top kit, or top kit one in this case, down the edge. Obviously we'll be going through sort of like the rigs in a sec. Bait wise, I'm just keeping it nice and simple today. I'm using my favourite ground bait in the whole wide world. Depth wise, obviously you've got to take that into consideration when you're feeding these baits, but 2 foot and less, Power Scopex ground bait, Sonny Baits Power Scopex. Oh my days, folks, it just smells absolutely amazing, and the fish absolutely go nuts for it, as you'll soon see when we get going. So anything over 2 foot, that's when you go to like your particles, that kind of thing. It's a funny old depth down the edge. Lots of sort of like stones and like bits of weed and that, and it is like a bit of a steep drop off. It's not sort of like, I can't get a flat bottom cheeky anywhere. So without further ado, I'm going to talk you through rig wise. Now, first things first, because there's only carp in here, folks. So, well, I think there's like breams and skimmers and roach and gudgeons and perch and things like that, but we're not after them today. We're just after carps. No F1s in here whatsoever. Carps are probably averaging, I'm going to say £4 or £5, but there is some great big wobbly ones in as well. First things first then, 19's Dura Hybrid Elastic. Obviously, I'm always looking at it from a match perspective, same pleasure fishing and what have you, can have a great day just on the top kit like we're doing, but from a match perspective, I want to get the job done basically. They're probably the hardest fighting carps in the whole wide world in here, folks. They go absolutely nuts when you hook them, so that's why your gear has got to match with how hard the carp are fighting. Bearing in mind I'm just doing one side today, match conditions I'll have the other side going, so I sort of alternate it, catch on one side, go on the other, but you'll soon see we don't have to do that. So yeah, 19's elastic on. Main line, 0.22 AccuPower. So really sort of strong, robust stuff. It's not going to let me down. Really durable. Coming down to, you see, this is the first thing here. I've got quite a long bit of line between pole tip and float, simply because I didn't know whether it'd work this side. I didn't need to worry, folks. The other side's like a foot deeper, so that's why I've left a little bit more line on. The other reason as well, I'm quite a far way off the water. Now what I want to do is tuck me top kit into the edge, so I'm not sort of like spooking the fish, because although when I'm fishing it's not clear because the fish are colouring it up, out in the water I reckon there's like at least 16 inches of visibility. It is pretty clear, so that's why I just want to keep that line a little bit longer than the norm than it would. 2 number 8s back shots just for stability, and then this is the first thing I'd say about margin fishing, is that your floats have got to be heavy enough to cope with the wafts of these big carp's tail when they come in. We're getting sort of like, when I put the bait in, you'll see you're getting like 3 or 4 rock up really quick, and my float might be moving a little bit, but down the bottom end it's staying put. So I'm only going to be striking them proper positive, quick goes under bite. So 414 edge floats minimum. Could get away with the 416s as well. Nice and positive. I plumbed up to roughly sort of like bottom of the body, and I'm holding it sort of into the banking because it is not like a cliff face like that, but it is going away pretty steep. So we just want to be careful of that. And then coming down to the shotting pattern, we've got 6 number 8 stots on there. Stots or shots. I always recommend shots, don't I, folks? But I've run out of number 8 shots and I've not stocked up yet, so that's why they're number 8 stots. It don't make a blind bit of difference, you know. Just make sure, I would say, make sure there's like a thumbnail of like gap in between the stots, because otherwise, if you bulk them all together, they sort of like kink out into a bit of a C shape. It just affects the presentation. Probably won't matter today, folks. And then hook length, like dead simple. It's a 3-inch 0.17 to a 14's XSH, and all I've done, folks, I've just got one of our pre-tied ones. Obviously they're 6 inches and just halved it, just made 3-inch hook length out of it. Absolutely perfect. So 12s or 14s, and I'm just going to put 3 or 4 maggots on that. I'm not complicating anything. As I said, I've got my ground baits, or took you through the pot as well. I've got my ground bait for feeding, and I've got white maggots today because of the clarity of the water. I don't think it'd make a blind bit of difference actually. Reds would probably work, but I like white maggots in the summer, and especially when it's clear water. I just think it's a visible thing, you know, visual thing rather, the fish homing on it. Obviously corn would work, this, that and the other, but obviously corn being a heavy bait, it will stay put, but the way these fish are coming in and sort of like wafting the bait around, it looks more natural if the maggots sort of like slightly come off the bottom. Obviously my shots are in place and my rig's not moving, but when the maggots sort of move off the bottom, the fish tend to grab it, and that's how I've caught them so far, because I've had a sneaky go. I promise I've had a sneaky go. Pot wise, so that's our large toss pot on there, and all I've done, you'll see there's holes in the side here. Again, we've talked about this loads of time. For that quick release effect with that ground bait, it's so important that you have the holes in. So basically that's getting sneaked under the water, and then by putting the holes in and making the holes on the top a little bit bigger, water's getting behind that and then forcing the ground bait out. So it is going into a little tiny pile like that. It's clouding up as it goes through, which is the beauty of Power Scope X ground bait, because it does attract them fish like mad. It's brilliant. As I say, I've got other hook baits to go for, but white maggots, that's all I've got out at the minute. And yeah, it's just a nice simple day's fishing. There's no point complicating it on days like this when, where are we? We are sort of like coming up to the middle of May. Just shouted all in up there. Just coming up to the middle of May. The fish have literally, I'd have said yesterday was the last day of spawning because of what's happened with the weather. It turned yesterday. It's still pretty mild. It's still sort of 15, 16 degrees, but yesterday it was like 24, 23, 24. And usually after that spawning, you know, obviously the fish have got other things on their mind, so it's been like that for sort of 4 or 5 days, maybe a week. Now the fish haven't eaten in that time, so as soon as the weather changes and we get that different pressure, the fish tend to go absolutely nuts, and that's what's happened today. I've sat down, the fish have already been like coming into the bait and that, but they're not easy to catch out in the water. I've had a quick go out there and they're blooming hard to catch because it's the clarity. Everything seems to be sort of like within 2 meters of the bank, so that's why I thought, come on, let's get an edge rig in, let's stop trying to catch them shallow, my favourite method in the whole wide world. And yeah, it's been amazing, folks. So without further ado, I think we need to go and snare some fishes for you. Right then, folks, so just about to get going. Before we do, I just want to go over something really important that I forgot to mention before. How dare I? No fear of them blooming fish going anywhere, folks. It's ridiculous down there, which you'll see in a bit. But basically, with shallow fishing, so obviously 2 foot and less, that's what I'm feeding this ground bait in. Anything over that, as I touched on before, you've really got down the particle route because you don't know what's happening with your ground bait. Now, the line pole tip to float, as long as you know you're not going to move it, you know, you'll see there I've got a Tipex mark on my pole. That is because I've got a deep landing net, yeah? Now if you can imagine that fish thrashing around in there once I've netted it, because they are a bit angry, and you see what happens with that float, the fish is down there somewhere, the float's below the landing net rim. Yeah, so what's happening is if it's thrashing around, it could potentially push your float up and down. I've talked about this loads in, you know, various videos I've done. So what you need to do is just put a little mark there, and then as long as you're pulling that dacron, or the bead in my case, back to the same spot every time, yes, I've just folded it over like that, and I'm marking the top of me, to the top of my float there, so I know every time that I'm fishing perfect. If it's up there, obviously it's slipped up. If it's down there, obviously it's come down a little bit. But anyway, just a little cheeky one there for you folks. So let's get 4 white magpies on. So as I say, we've got a 14's XSH hook on to 0.17. Could probably go blooming heavy if we wanted to. As I say, the problem's been getting the rig in, but hopefully we'll catch a couple and it might settle down. So what we're doing with this ground bait, I'll bring it over here so I can show you. So basically, I've done a full 2-pint tub of Power Scope X, a full 2-pint tub of water, put them together, left them 20 minutes, put them through a riddle, and that's what you're left with. Really sort of like overwet, damp ground bait, but there's no particles in there whatsoever, nothing to feed the fish up. All there is your hook bait, and you just single it out. It's amazing. So all we're doing, putting the ground bait in the pot, slightly overfilling it and just giving it a light press down. There's one here that I can look straight away, folks, but I'm not going to do that. I could get him scooped straight away, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. So first things first, I'm going to lay my rig out. So I don't want it anywhere near where I'm going to be fishing. There's a bloody gaffy, that ground bait there. But you see how quick release that is. And what I'm going to do is just lower that straight away over and into it. I don't think it'll take long, folks. It's mad how they've come into it, but joking apart, so you can see the fish on it straight away, yeah? I'm only waiting for that. Yeah, nice, fast, quick bites. I'm not in, oh, it blooming fell off. There's a little baby one here, that was in the mouth and all that. I'm not interested in sort of like them slow bites or anything like that. I only want to strike into, oh, that's why, Jamie, get in on that. Blooming overfolded on the hook, ain't it, folks? How dare it? Nobody, folks, nobody likes to see that. But that was a little babby one, that. Like a little babby mirror, about £2. I'm going to go again. If you're getting a lot of that, then obviously that's when I would change to sort of single bait, single corn, single worm or something like that. Oh, it's ridiculous. Do I go in? I'm not even going to feed it, folks. Pointless feeding it when there's that many fish there. So again, I don't want to lay my rig in over the top of one. I'm going to wait for that one to bypass. It's just absolutely crazy, this. Look at the state of that. So I'm going to get away with that. Yeah, I'm going to bypass feeding, just lower that down. So again, striking it nice fast bites. You see there's a fish there now, tucked it into the bank. Not a proper bite, that was a proper bite though. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. I have got other sections set up as well, folks. Obviously I'm fishing heavy, so I shouldn't have to use them, but the mistake anglers will make at this point is feeding over the top. Don't do it, just use your pot. Don't want to feed over the top. The little bobby one again. Definitely don't want to feed over the top, but you can see, like, obviously match conditions, you know, fishing heavy, get job done. Ooh, if you can blooming net them. Yeah, you don't want to be like wasting your time, sort of like spending too long playing them. Obviously, you know, big fish are going to take a little bit longer. Do you know what though? I think it's these little fish that fight harder than the big wobbly ones. And populars as well. Populars fight hard, don't they? So yes, obviously if you've got a swim like that on the go, then you wouldn't have to keep changing either side. You know what I mean? But obviously match conditions, when there's a bit more pressure, make sure you keep changing, sort of like catch one fish one side and then move to the other. Now you see, as soon as I've netted that fish, look where my float is in my landing net, because I've got a big landing net on today, because generally it's big fish that we're after. So what I want to make sure is that my pole tip is over the fish all the time, so my float's not moving. Yeah, so a little babby coming. Get him. Perfect. Probably £3. They're blooming warm, them fish. So at this stage here, so what I want to do is just pull that elastic back, and then just check my mark on the side of my pole. So you can see there, my float is absolutely perfect. So I know that's not moved, but I know it's not moved because obviously I kept my pole tip over my float. So this is what I mean about them stots. If you zoom in on that, Jamie, I just want to show you what I meant. Remember me saying before about making sure there's a fingernail or a thumbnail. Is it getting that in, Jamie? Yeah, a thumbnail of like separation in between the stocks, otherwise they'll sort of like kink out and go into a bit of a C shape. So what I want to do is just bring them back, and that's why obviously using shots is a lot quicker, because you don't get them moving. But I ran out of number 8 shots. So 4 white magpies on again. But you saw that one nice and quick. It's very, very important you're striking at the right bites. Don't get me wrong, we're gonna foul up fish there, folks, simply because there's so many there. Especially when we're on our own as we are. You know what I mean? We've got the whole lake to ourselves. So again, slightly overfill it, light press down. Get on your marker. Now this is another thing as well. Make sure you're on your marker. Now I've got a mark on my elbow where I know where I'm going every time. I've got my marker down there. Sneak that in. You see how quickly that comes out, and just up and over and just drop down. I think there's 1 or 2 there, folks, isn't there? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But joking apart, the beauty of ground bait and why I like to use it, especially in that 2 foot and less of water, is obviously it's dispersing every time. You're fishing absolutely clean every time. The trouble with micros is you're getting a build up of bait, and eventually you just get so many fish in your peg that you start foul hooking and everything. But when you're going in deeper water, you will have to use micros, just so you know they're clinging onto like the slope, if you like. Markers wise, it's so important that you're fishing to your markers. He's a bit better. He's a nice chunky mirror. I don't know what kind of weight you do today, folks, in a match, but it'd be absolutely ridiculous. I think you need about 27 keep nets today, folks. He's a nice mirror, him. So again, keep your float over the fish, so there's no chance of it sliding. Took it on the drop, that one, didn't it? Lovely mirror, probably 5 or 6 pound in. But there's nothing to it. As I said, just make sure everything's nice and clean every time. That your shots are in the right position, your float hasn't moved. Even though I know I've kept it over, kept my rig over the fish, I know it's not moved, I'm still going to double check it every time. So yeah, you can see it's on that every time. Yeah, bringing that down, I know everything's perfect. I would say it's going to calm down a bit. It looks as though it has. There's not any fish there now. Don't think it'll take them long. So again, I've got my marker on my elbow here, which I'm going for. I'm laying the rig out first, putting the ground bait in on my marker down there. This is the important bit there, folks. That's sneaking that bait in. Oh my dear, there's one eating my blooming pot. What is going on? And then this bit here, there's a fish right over that. I don't want to drop it on that fish. It's eating bloody pot. Oh my days. Bring that back a little bit. There's like many fish there. And then we just wait, just sitting over that little pile of ground bait and just waiting for that nice fast bite like that. It's so good, this, folks, isn't it? Oh my days. And that's like, but this is the beauty of like fishing heavy. Yeah, you can see how quick you can get them in. Yeah, like 3 and a bit pound fish like that in no time. I don't think there's anything more to show. So I think this is apt, this fish, for the lake. Pretty's lake, and this is a beautiful little mirror to. I think we'll finish on this, folks. It's just like there's nothing more to go through. Just make sure, obviously, you're keeping in check with, what's happening with your rig. But it's a bit feisty because we've got it in quick. But look at that stunning, fully scaled mirror. Absolute stunning little fish, £3. But it just shows you what kind of weight you can do in a short space of time. But I suppose maximising, your time spent in the water to obviously putting fish on the bank. We're not fishing far out. When in this kind of mood, and obviously the fish are really warm, a lot warmer than what the air temperature is. And I said from now on, now until it comes obviously a little bit colder again, but that's way off, folks. That's what you can expect. A lot of these waters, it works similar for F1s as well, as long as you're getting that shallow water. But obviously you'll have to fish a lot lighter for F1s. But just setting them little baby traps and making sure everything's nice and positive. Heavy elastics, heavy line. You've seen it don't make a blind bit of difference for them. When they're in that kind of mood, there's another one on my bait now. It's just ridiculous. When they're in that kind of mood, you can just do silly weights. It's like such a fast, effective way of fishing. I know you always bang on about shallow fishing. Like, you can't beat shallow fishing for speed and effectiveness. I think that'll beat it today, folks. And obviously, if you had both sides going, now bearing in mind, obviously we're on our own, match conditions will be different. That's why you do need both sides. So one, make sure that you're putting your ground bait in on the same spot every time, but you're sneaking it in. You saw how careful I was sneaking it in. I mean, you can kick off when you're not fishing it with a big pot, you know what I mean, with something like that, just to get some fish in your peg. But when you're actually fishing it, you just want sort of like that mouthful there of bait. So the fish are coming in, but seeing your hook bait, there's no other particles there, then they're just nailing it. But it goes to prove the effectiveness as a standout bait as well. White maggots, folks, you've got to get on the white maggots. I love white maggots, but corn as well. You know, if they're being a little bit pongy, and obviously we lost that first one, the maggots folded over, get on a sort of heavier bait, single bait as well, so you don't have that, and obviously your bait's coming off when you're striking. But as always, folks, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, or that'll tell you when we're putting these wonderful videos out for you. But I hope you've enjoyed that. Get out and give margin fishing a try. It is just amazing. Yeah!